Hey everybody, Gary with Basecamp Trading. Let's take a look at crude oil futures. Crude actually made a pretty decent drop in the overnight from yesterday. You can see crude pushed down quite a bit during the overnight. And then we came into the London session, and then crude actually started changing direction. We went from lower lows and lower highs to here we had a higher high and a higher low and yet another higher high. So at this point, crude was looking bullish. We came into the room right in here, and again, crude, the moving averages were to the upside, momentum was to the upside, and we were looking at crude to the bullish side. But then we got this big reversal doji right here that triggered to the downside, and it turned everything around. 5 and 13 went to the downside, momentum went to the downside, and crude made a pretty solid move lower. And you can see crude's actually kind of been all over today because we made this big push down and then this really big bullish bar back, another really bullish bar, bottoming tail, entire body of the bar closing back above the 50 EMA, and crude really has pretty much recovered this whole move down. Here's what that looks like on the Renko chart. And this is a run on stops. You can see that the overnight pivot high, our significant pivot high in the overnight was 72.01. Our significant pivot low in the overnight was down here at 70.87. Now that's a big range, but you can see that crude had made a significant run higher off of that and then a big pullback lower off of that. So that definitely made this the significant pivot high, this the significant pivot low, and then crude ultimately was pivoting inside that. Right in here's where we came into the trading session in the US session. We actually triggered a trend reversal breakout and broke through resistance, made a push higher, didn't quite get to the overnight high, but made a push higher, pulled back, consolidated, the crude ghost pit open, and then we did push higher, and it looked like we were going to break out and make a run higher. Everything was looking bullish. 30-minute chart was looking bullish. This chart was looking bullish. And what they ended up doing was going up here, and you had all these buy stops for people looking for the breakout of the overnight high. They went up there and ran all those stops. They broke above that previous high by 2 ticks. 72.02 to 72.04, and or I'm sorry, 72.01, I think. Yeah, 72.01 to 72.04. But they went up there, ran these stops by 3 ticks, and then took crude back the other way. Triggered in that reversal doji off the 30-minute chart, pulled under the cloud. This is one of our favorite trades. We broke the cloud, pulled back into the moving averages, made the wick off the moving averages to the downside, had another pullback into the 18 EMA, wick off the 18 to the downside. And if you got out, you may have tried to get back in here. You might have taken a stop out. No big deal. Got back in on the wick off the 34, and then just stayed with it. This was only a 1 bar pullback right here. Just stuck with it all the way down to our target. Our target was 70.53, and we started shorting crude all the way back here at 71.61. So depending on how you traded this, you definitely had the potential to grab $1,000 or more to the downside in crude. Now it may not have all been in one run. Depends on again, how you're trading it. Were you trading trailing pivots, or were you getting in and getting out? But either way, you still had an opportunity to grab potentially $1,000 to the downside in crude. As you know, we traded targets all the time. This was our downside target. Now, crude actually ended up going a little bit lower, but we had gotten extended and we were making bullish divergence on our VSI when we hit our target. So really wasn't interested in crude lower from that point. And then you can see crude actually turned around and headed back the other way, recovered pretty much that whole thing. But we did get some nice short opportunities off of that run on stops in crude.